with Clive Riddle, author of a new book called Dorris Bridge. Dorris Bridge is a novel for the young adult audience. Clive, welcome to MommyCast.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
So you've kind of now taken a dip into the young adult genre. This is new for you, right?
Yes, it is. I've written a number of healthcare business books, but this is and articles, but this is my first foray into fiction. I'd had a story in my head that I told my kids on long drives in the car. And since really out of college, I wanted to write a book that started with this story and theme. And it took a while to get it out of me. It took a lot out of me to do it. But I'm really happy to have come up with the result.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a fascinating book. It's got a lot of different elements to it, and I kind of want to talk to you about that. But first, I have to congratulate you on creating a young adult novel with no vampires in it. I think that's unique.
Well, there are a few paranormal elements, but that is really not the focus or theme of the book.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about the different elements that you've brought into this book.
Sure. And Dorris Bridge is really, it's a young adult mystery intended to have a track for adults too, that examines rural legends and weaves them into some Western high mountain desert history. And by rural legend, what I mean is, I think most of us have heard of urban legends, but rural legends are really the same kind of thought, only they're based in a rural setting and culture. And my approach to the book was to do it really with a multimedia approach. Inside the book, there's some sheet music when the protagonist, Kyle Burgess, breaks into song. Being a small town, of course, the small town paper is prominent, and there's a 4-page newspaper spread. And actually, even out on the website, there's supplemental material, including download of various music that relates to the story. But the story itself, the mystery element of it, involves a sheriff and his son trying to solve a series of tragic hit-and-run accidents and a 30-year cold case disappearance. And along the way, there's this basis of various rural legends in this small, isolated rural town that all become intertwined. And so really the story works into the evolution of a father-son relationship during the course of Kyle Burgess's senior year in high school. The story is set in the 70s. You know, Gretchen, you may be a little too young to remember the 70s, but I think many parents...
I was in high school in the 70s, yes.
You know, for many parents, this provides the ability to have life in the 1970s laid out for their kids, to understand what their parents experienced. And also it provides a view of life in a rural, isolated town, where you can get a picture of, you know, small town politics and prejudice and relationships. I also wanted to work in an idea of how actual regional history can shape a rural culture, and give a chance for kids who, when they're reading, to, you know, reading a history book can be fairly boring, right? But working into this, some actual history works into the story and can give them a sense, while it's fiction, of still understanding some real history along the way. So that was the ambitious agenda and menu I took on with the book.
It's very ambitious, but you know, it is interesting that you're pulling in these different elements, and they really are factual, right? I mean, you've got the history element. These rural legends really kind of do exist, correct?
Sure. Yeah. You know, I grew up in a town that was the largest town in any direction for, you know, 90, 100 miles. And we had our share, and really several of these legends in here were based off of, you know, the type of things I had heard from a friend of a friend of a friend.
Right.
You know, strange bright lights that flash in the cloudless night sky, a haunted abandoned mansion on a hill, a group of mysterious wandering Basque nomads in the desert, or cattle that would mysteriously get abducted and their carcasses found later without a trace of footsteps. These are all stories I had heard myself. And and worked into the story and intertwined them at the end.
Well, let's get back to the multimedia approach, because that really is very forward thinking for an author. And I want to commend you on that. I think that's great. And it's something that a young adult is really going to be all about, because, you know, they're all online anyway doing all this stuff. So what made you decide that you needed to do that part of the book as well?
Well, my own history is that in my sordid past, I was a musician. And, you know, that's always been a big part of my life. And so for me, really thinking through the book, there was a soundtrack in my head the whole time. Throughout the book, as I'm trying to relate life in the 70s, the characters are listening to the radio, and there's reference to various songs coming in. That always, I think for most people, triggers when they hear a song, a certain, you know, where were they then, and,
right.
and a memory. And so that already was there. I had written several songs that really touched upon part of this story in my head, and to me, to fully tell the story, the music was necessary.
It's a wonderful opportunity for young adults to kind of get to know some of this, you know, because the rural part of our country is disappearing. Even kids who maybe do live in more of a rural area, they don't really understand that rural element, because they're all so connected now.
Well, exactly. There's still small towns, but with Facebook and everything else, there's not necessarily the sense of isolation there once was that perhaps made the culture a little different.
Yeah, I think it made it a lot different, actually. And I think it's really kind of a cool angle that you've taken there, too. So good luck with the book. I hope it does well for you.
Well, thanks so much, Gretchen.
We're going to invite our viewers to go to our Facebook page or our Twitter, or find us at Ning, and find out more about this wonderful book by Clive Riddle called Dorris Bridge.